It shouldn't come as much of a surprise to you guys, but I decided to do something very stupid today. With the youth of the NHL looking so good right now, I wanted to go through my top 15 best players under 25 years old. I was so excited to make this ranking going in because there is just so much talent right now in the league, but making this ranking was one heck of an undertaking. Now, when listing only 15 players under 25 years old, there's some pretty big honorable mentions. So many forwards that ended up missing the list, and this doesn't even have any of the defensemen that just missed either. Plus, I'm not even mentioning goaltenders today, too. This is just the best skaters under 25, and there are so many good ones that just missed the list. Starting out the top 15 skaters under 25 years old, we go on to our first defenseman of the list here in Thomas Harley. Now, for some ground rules in terms of how I'm judging these guys, I'm just going off of the last 3 seasons of play, with this season mattering the most. Which is definitely why Thomas Harley isn't higher, because this season has not gone his way. Just 10 points through 18 games, and the defensive play wasn't quite there. But apparently, he had been dealing with an injury throughout this entire season and was just put on IR, which I think will ultimately be a good thing for him because his game definitely felt a bit off. Before the injury, he was putting up great point totals, looking great in the goal scoring department, and just having a great blend of skating and speed and passing ability. And even though there are a couple of mishaps here and there defensively, he more than makes up for it with his blend of offensive tools. On to another young offensive defenseman, we go on to Lane Hutson, who's in a pretty similar position, I would say, to Harley, where the last season was fantastic. This year has kind of been a bit up and down, but I'm still a big believer in their long-term potential. In Lane's case, having that Calder season really rose the expectations, getting 66 points and 60 assists in 82 games. This year, point-wise, ain't looking half bad. Pretty similar projection, with 14 points and 13 assists through 18 games. The same flaws are still present in Hutson's game, but he'll always be somebody that has that dynamic ability. Even though at points it's been a little bit inconsistent this season, he can still be absolutely magical. On to number 13, we go on to a much different defenseman in Moritz Seider of the Detroit Red Wings, who's not nearly as fancy, but in terms of defensive dependability, is among the best in the league. I've always felt a bit bad for Seider because since his rookie season, he's been thrown to the wolves defensively, playing against top competition and playing so many minutes a night, it's hard to really breathe. But I think every single season, he's gotten even more dependable and a little bit more offensive like we saw in his rookie season. This year, though, 11 points in 19 games, on pace for 48 points in 82. On a list like this, full of younger players that have their inconsistencies, have their problems, a player like Seider, who is just rock solid across the board, that is consistent, you don't have to worry about him, and will always get the job done, that to me is super important. Now, moving on to our first forward of the list here at number 12, we go on to Matt Boldy of the Minnesota Wild. Somebody that in terms of the point totals just continues to get better every single season. After having a solid rookie year, he just continues to climb, got 73 points last year, 46 assists, and then this year so far is above a point per game with 10 goals and 21 points through 20. He's not going to put up Kaprizov numbers, but I don't think he ever has to. He's a great Swiss Army knife player, though, that you can put in many positions and just get some great production out of him, though, with the habits he has, with how fast his game can be. When Boldy is at his best, he can be a straight-up animal. Speaking of animals, we go on to number 11 and Seth Jarvis of the Carolina Hurricanes, who I was floating as potentially a top 10 guy because I love this guy so dang much, man. Oh my goodness. In terms of absolute dog per 60, you can't really get much better than Seth because what he's been able to do over the past few seasons has been awesome. The rise of just a solid middle six player to a bona fide just star in Carolina has been so much fun to watch. I mean, the great production there, especially the goal scoring, back-to-back 30-goal seasons, and on pace for 46 this season and 73 points. Jarvis just continues to impress. I would say, too, among all the players here, is one of the better playoff performers over the last few seasons, hovering around a point per game in every single playoff run. He's just been such a clutch player in every single way, and exactly what Carolina has needed a bit more of. That type of scrappy goal scorer. I think Jarvis is perfect for that system and is, I think, raising it to a higher level. Now on to a player that has been the talk of the town so far, and honestly, I couldn't have it any lower, and that is Matthew Schaefer of the New York Islanders. Now, when you have a ranking like this, where I'm taking young players with a 3-year sample size into account, to have only played 19 games up to this point and already be within the top 10, he's just that good, though. Now, before we keep going, if you guys will oblige me for a second, let's talk about health here. I know for me, with how much hockey has consumed my life over the last month, I've been starting to neglect my health just a little bit. But knowledge is power, especially with your own body, and that's why I want to introduce today's sponsor in LabCorp On Demand. I know from my work when I'm on this chair all day making videos, that's not exactly the greatest for my health. And that's why I'm getting the men's health test, which tests for cholesterol, diabetes risk, total testosterone, and more. And thankfully for you guys, getting started is super easy. Just go to the link on the screen or hit the link in the description down below and use code GRAVITATE to get 20% off select tests, then make an appointment or walk into one of LabCorp's 2,000 plus patient service centers for sample collection. Once you get started, your sample will be collected using the same methods as your doctor's office. No need to prick your own finger. And with testing, it's performed at LabCorp's CAP-accredited, CLIA-certified clinical laboratories that typically process 3 million samples every week. It's so easy that you can skip the waiting room and wait in your car or outside until the lab technician is ready to see you. You'll also be notified by email when your results are ready as early as the next day. So if you're serious about staying strong and healthy, optimizing your performance, and knowing your testosterone levels, just head over to the link in the description down below and use code GRAVITATE to get 20% off select tests today. Everything that you could have held against Schaefer going into the season has proven to be wiped away. All the concerns about his age, about him not playing any games. Matthew Schaefer is the anomaly, but just continues to get better and better, which you do want to see out of an 18-year-old, but the bar was already raised so high early on in the season, and he's seemingly not slowing down whatsoever. I was going to say maybe we see him slow down in the second half of the season, but at this rate, I don't even think that's going to happen. The only reason he's not higher is because we have only seen 19 games out of him, and I do think players with bigger sample sizes do end up getting a bit farther in this list, but eventually I think Schaefer will probably be within the top 5 pretty easily in a couple years' time. Now onto a favorite of mine and somebody that I think has really improved their game so far this season in Cole Caulfield of the Montreal Canadiens. Now, probably wouldn't have had him as high heading into this season, but one thing that I think Cole has really improved on is the physical play, some of the defensive habits. I don't think he was a horrible defensive player, but definitely not a good one by any means heading into this season. But I think he's really been able to elevate his game. Plus, in the scoring department, 13 goals, 19 points through 18 games, on pace for almost 60 this season. I don't think he reaches that, but even like a 45, 50 goal season, I think that's absolutely within reach here. Plus the clutch gene he has had this season, saving multiple games for Montreal up to this point, which you just love to see. Going on to number 8, and in the conversation of the Leo Carlsons, the Bedards, the Celebrinis, and the young centers in the league, I do think Wyatt Johnston just doesn't quite get the attention that he quite frankly deserves. Now, yes, he isn't as young as those guys, but as a 23rd overall pick, he has just continued to surpass expectations year after year, and is having a breakout season up to this point. Through 19 games, 11 goals, 21 points, on pace for a 90-point year. Now, yes, a lot of his goal scoring specifically has come off the power play, but that's just how Johnston is when he gets that extra little bit of space. That shot is terrific, and he has a great sense of how to capitalize on things, and I think deserves more of a conversation to be a part of Team Canada this year for the Olympics, just for how good he is when the stakes are raised. I mean, the player performances, the Game 7 goals he's had over the years, he's a magical player for how young he is. Now let's move on to another big-time performer this season. On to number 7, we go on to Leo Carlsson of the Anaheim Ducks. Now, if I was just going off of this season, I think Carlsson would definitely be higher, potentially within the top 4 maybe. He's been just that good. The jump between last season and this year is hard to describe. I mean, Greg Cronin is just horrible for what he inflicted upon this Ducks team, but even then, with that tax taken aside, going from 45 points last year to on pace 118 this season is just kind of nuts. Now, granted, Carlsson has always kind of had that talent to be the guy. It's just actually applying it with his physicality and layer of defensive game that has kind of been the big thing holding him back. Now, nothing is holding him back. The confidence is sky high, and you're seeing the results come out of it. Now, I don't think Carlsson will be shooting as high as he will in terms of the percentages throughout this year. I don't think we'll see it even out a bit. But if he has a point per game this season this year at 20 years old, I mean, that is just fine considering where he was a year ago. Now that leads me on to this week's member poll, where I asked you guys which of these young NHLers will finish with the most points this year between Leo Carlsson, Macklin Celebrini, and Connor Bedard. Celebrini won 80% of the vote, with Carlsson and Bedard both at 10%. I do think Celebrini does finish with the most, but it's interesting how big of a gulf there is here. But if you guys want to become a member here to be featured in the polls, featured in the videos, you can become a member now by hitting the join button next to the subscribe button or hitting the link in the description down below. And for a couple bucks a month, you get exclusive videos every single week. Last week, I put an early preview for my NHL draft rankings you could check out. Plus, of course, the polls and exclusive emoji you can use in the comments down below. And of course, a big thank you to all the current channel members. Their names will be up here on the screen. Heading into number 6 here, we go on to Lucas Raymond of the Detroit Red Wings. Something that I think among the top NHLers in this group doesn't get a lot of conversation. I mean, NHL Network had him like below a Matthew Matthew Nyes heading into the season, which I think is just insane. Granted, Nyes has always been pretty good this season, but Raymond, I think, has just been a leader in his own right, especially in the point production. Another one that just continues to get better and better over the last couple of seasons. 72 points, then 80 points, and on pace for 95 points this year. Yes, he plays with a pretty good center in Dylan Larkin, but I wouldn't hold that against him because they really elevate each other in a lot of ways. Raymond is just that great connector, somebody that has the vision all over the ice and can do whatever he really wants to at any given moment. I love him a ton, and I'm just going to say it, I think he's still pretty underrated. Onto the top 5 here, though, we go on to Tim Stützle next up of the Ottawa Senators. Somebody that, man, in terms of the talent level, in terms of what they're capable of, I think could always pop in a 100, 110-point season. Never seems to quite get there, but this season has still been okay. So far through 19 games, 10 goals, 19 points. The goal scoring has really been a big positive for Stützle, especially lately over the last couple of weeks, which is one of the more positive developments, because back in, what was it, 2022, 23, he got 39 goals in 78 games, and we haven't quite seen that Stützle since then. I think we're starting to see it come out a little bit more, and once Brady Tkachuk is hopefully healthy, then we'll see some more depth around Stützle, especially for the power play. But in terms of the skill set, in terms of how he's been able to adapt his defensive game, I think Stützle is just one of the better overall younger players out there, and when he is on top of his game, can be a absolute game changer. But going on to his teammate here next in Jake Sanderson on the defensive side, and similar to what a Matthew Schaefer is able to do, what Sanderson's skating level allows him to be capable of is sky high. I mean, in terms of the defensive game, Sanderson is exactly what you want on the back end, eating so many minutes and doing it very effectively. This season, 13 points in 19 games, and the production is never going to be otherworldly or anything, but I think hovering around 55, 60 points or so is always going to be pretty successful because of what Sanderson does without the puck on his stick. He's truly one of those that you do need to watch every game to get those details, similar to a Moritz Seider, to really understand what he's doing out there, because how much he's able to change the game, how much he's able to carry that Ottawa defense is honestly pretty spectacular. But going on to the top 3, we move on to Jack Hughes of the New Jersey Devils, who I think I maybe would have had number 1 a year ago, but I do think has been usurped by a couple of younger forwards out there. But Hughes is still magnificent. The big thing that just sucks year after year is the health. He got injured again, and I'm just waiting for that fully healthy Jack Hughes season, and I'm just gonna be here waiting for another 10 years probably. But we all know what Hughes is capable of when he is healthy. This season was on pace for 96 points in 81 games, man. Oh, we lost, truly. The speed and skill in conjunction and how much he's able to control the pace of play whenever he wants to is just awesome to watch. I just wish we got to see more games out of him in the end. And I will say that lack of dependability does put him outside the top 2 for me. Moving on to set number 2, and a player that I am so glad is proving the doubters wrong this year in Connor Bedard of the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, as a Stars fan, I'm not happy, but as somebody that was really a big fan of what Bedard was capable of, I'm happy to see that now Chicago being somewhat relevant, Bedard is finally the supporting cast to do what he does best. Now, I'll still say the supporting cast is not perfect, but a player like Andre Burakovsky has really helped kind of give a player like Bedard a little bit more speed on his wing, which I think ultimately helps. But so far this season, you can see 10 goals, 26 points in 18 games, especially over the last month specifically, has just been on fire. But he looks a lot faster, looks a lot more clean, and is actually attempting these ridiculous moves that often is working out pretty well. But I think just the improvements in Chicago's play in general, the improvements in their speed too, have helped a player like Bedard have somebody to work with at the very least, because beforehand, it was just a barren wasteland for him. But going on to number 1, and to me, a pretty obvious pick, even though a lot of players have really been playing well this season, I still think the best overall player here, under 25, and definitely the one you want to build your franchise with, is Macklin Celebrini of the San Jose Sharks. I was debating, maybe he hasn't played enough to be a number 1. I don't really care, honestly. What you see on the ice, what you've seen in the score sheet, what you see, no matter what you look at, is just pure dominance in Celebrini's case. In 19 games this year, 10 goals, 27 points, just magnificent. And I will say, I think maybe San Jose is a bit more to Celebrini's style than Bedard was to start out, and I do think Celebrini maybe has a bit more of an advantageous position, having a player like Will Smith up to the level that he is at too. But Celebrini does just put everybody into the fight. He makes everybody better. The details, the speed, the shot, the quickness in his game, the skill set, how much he's able to take over an entire game and put his team on his back. It's just unlike anybody else in this league right now, and nobody's doing it better than Celebrini is doing it right now. But those are my top 15 rankings for the under 25 players in the league. This is such a competitive ranking, man, and I could still go back and forth on this thing, but hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Comment down below your thoughts on my rankings, what you guys agree, what you guys disagree with, and what would your top 5, top 10 look like, and does your team have any player that could make this list? Let me know. Of course, if you guys want some more videos, you can click on this card for all my hockey rankings content right in one playlist, and I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure you guys have a fantastic hockey day, and goodbye.